Howdy mates, how are we doing? Here's a part 3 video for June 28th, 2022. Now, I know it may seem odd that I'm at a graveyard, to say the least, but I figured since I was already on the way back to Greenville, this was a perfect opportunity to go and visit Annie Oakley and her grave. So, this is essentially where Annie Oakley is buried. She is near a place called Frenchtown, which is just a small village just north of me, basically right up here. So we're basically in rural Darke County, and it's stated on here that she was born 6 miles to the northeast, which is now basically known as Willowdale. But for those of you who have never heard of Annie Oakley, this is really a good opportunity for me to talk about her. She's a very important historical figure, especially during her time. She's basically one of the first recognized female sharpshooters at her time. Basically, sharpshooting was like a game and a skill set in which you can shoot with such accuracy, especially with small items. You know, like she was the type of person where you could throw a glass up in the air and she would be able to shoot it perfectly. So and basically, well, I'll explain that in a moment. So her early life, she often referred to, well, for a time she was actually adopted, because her father passed away at a very young age. She was born in 1860. So you figure right during the Civil War. So her father passed away at a very young age, and she was actually adopted by a cruel family who oftentimes abused her, physically speaking. And so she actually referred to that family as the Wolves. But eventually she was able to escape and actually find her mother and start living with her again, with her other siblings. So since the father was gone, you know, a big source of income was also gone. So she actually picked up on hunting, basically, hunting for game. Well, she actually turned out to be really good at it. And she actually started doing shows where she would do sharpshooting. So you fast forward to her reaching about 21 years old. She actually participated in a competition that was against another well-known shooter, Frank Butler. And the best part, she actually beat him. Because back then, Frank Butler was considered to be one of the best. And he was a male, too. You figure back then, sharpshooting was predominantly a male sport. So that really said something about her character. So basically, through Frank Butler, he recruited her to actually join what is known as Buffalo Bill's Wild West. Buffalo Bill actually referred to the person who led it. And she essentially started doing tours with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. They traveled basically throughout the United States, and they even went to Europe, too, in the early 1880s. You know, they went to, like, Spain, Italy, France, England. They basically went everywhere. So she made a big name for herself, not just nationally, but globally, too. So she even had a chance to meet Queen Elizabeth during the time. So she became a big name. And for a while, too, she actually had another rival. Her name was Lillian Smith. So for a little while, Annie Oakley didn't have like what you call the leading position. But it wasn't until Lillian Smith left, this was in the late 1880s, that Annie Oakley started touring again with Buffalo Bill and Frank Butler. So it was actually during a show in 1884 in which she actually gained a well-known Sioux chief's by the name of Sitting Bull. She actually earned his respect. You guys can actually read this a bit further if you want. So basically, Sitting Bull, he's the same Sioux chief that actually defeated General Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn. So, the same man. And he actually adopted her as a daughter. And actually, with the translation, she basically became known as Little Miss Sure Shot. So, like I said, she really made a name for herself. But the thing is, Annie Oakley was actually her stage name. Her real name is Phoebe Ann Moses, as a matter of fact, for those of you who did not know that. So, she did this touring for, at least 16 years. So, in 1901, she retired from it. And it was actually around the same time where she actually filed up to 54 different lawsuits against newspapers throughout the country because there was a false claim that Annie Oakley was basically stealing men's trousers to use that for buying cocaine. And it was discovered that the real woman who stole it was actually using the alias Annie Oakley. And this crime happened in Chicago. But the thing is, she was living in New Jersey at the time. So she wasn't even in the city during the incident or the crime. So it took her almost about a decade for her to finally basically get her reputation back. So I think that really took a toll on her too. But basically after that, she did some tours occasionally, kind of like on her own. But she also even tried to train some women during World War I. But a couple of times she was actually denied, basically. So really what she did was actually donate some of her money to various foundations. Whether, for example, she donated to the Red Cross at the time. So she was also what you call a philanthropist as well. So basically towards her later life, she moved back to this part of Ohio, closer to Greenville, and essentially this is where she passed away. And this is where she's buried to this very day. Truly a remarkable woman during her time. Would have highly respected her. Absolutely. Would have been a pleasure to meet her as well. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And thanks, you guys. Take care. See ya.